Hello, my name is Melanie Walker and welcome to my classroom. Well, technically I don't have a classroom yet, but on my road to becoming a teacher, I have thought a lot about my future and the type of students that I will have. I think constantly about what I will do to adjust my pedagogy to help meet the needs of my students someday, and what I can do to help them improve their performance so that they can become effective members of their community and school. Assessment is a huge part of teaching and plays an enormous role in the improvement of our students' performance. As a teacher, of course I want all my students to be successful and succeed in my classroom and for the rest of their lives. But there is a specific way to help students improve and change their performance for the better. I'm sure that thinking back in your experience in high school, you may or may not have had some teachers that have showed little to no interest in your performance, unjustly assessed you, or merely acknowledged the consequences of your performance without giving you actual viable feedback. I believe in 3 fundamental principles when it comes to assessing students and giving them feedback. 1, how to actually improve their performance and not just audit it. 2, the organization of your assessments. And 3, the benefits that will come with assessment. The purpose of assessment is to improve performance, not just audit it. Grant Wiggins. What an insightful quote this is. To audit is to simply examine with no obligation to further action or further study. To assess is to truly care about your students and give them viable, worthwhile, and meaningful feedback with goals that they can adjust their performance towards. Assessment shows that we, as teachers, actually care about our students and want them to be successful in their lives. I feel that in the education system today, there are too many teachers that simply sit back and just hand out their students' grades without giving them any sort of feedback. The student sits back and wonders why they received that F or even why they received that A. What did they do to deserve it? A teacher's job is to be an educator, a mentor, and a pillar of providence when their student is lost and needs a guide to turn to. A method of fulfilling a teacher's duties is to assess, give feedback, care, and guide students towards improvement. Effective assessment must have organization to it or else it won't work. It's not good enough to merely desire change, we must actually go and do it. So, how will we organize our assessments? First, it is important to determine the different types of assessments that we want to give based on the activity or the assignment that the students are doing. Do we want to give a written assessment based on the student's paper or presentation, an oral assessment after a group discussion or a homework assignment, a group assessment or an individual assessment? Those things are important to consider, and whatever you feel is appropriate for your assignment will work for you. Also, it is important to consider what your expectations are for the assignment that you feel will best evaluate your students' performance and their mastery of that subject. Some typical things that you can grade your students on are preparation, delivery, professionalism, and their application to real life. Teachers are free to add or create their own based on whatever their objectives are for their lessons. In written assessments, it's important to take adequate and fair notes that your student can read and discuss with you. It should be obvious to them what needs to be improved and how they can do better next time. In oral assessments, it's important to speak clearly and explain exactly what needs to be done for the student to improve his or her performance. Clear expectations and objectives need to be established. Set written goals that are attainable with your students after each assessment so that they will know and remember what needs to be worked towards. In all of your assessments, the feedback sandwich should be applied. This is a basic model where you give positive feedback, negative feedback, and again positive feedback to your students. It's extremely important to point out to your students what they did right because A, you don't want to destroy their confidence and debilitate them, and B, you want them to continue acting on their strengths and developing those. But negative feedback also needs to be discussed because your students need to know what areas need to be improved in order for them to succeed on that assignment. Feedback should never, ever be condescending or belittling. In order to be effective and still have your students' respect at the end of the day, feedback should be instructive, helpful, clear, and achievable. Also, it is important to help your students work towards that goal in the process of achieving it. Setting the expectation and leaving your students behind will not be effective or promote learning or growth. Again, you should never spoon feed them, but you are there to teach them through every stage of their learning from the beginning to the end. When you as a teacher have done these steps and are still waiting for results, don't worry, benefits will come. Some benefits will be bigger or smaller than others, but they will come. Assessment benefits teaching because you will see patterns of what needs to be changed in your lesson plan or even pedagogy that will better assist your students' needs and improve your own job performance. Assessment benefits learning because it helps your students know that you care. And with a student that is willing to meet you halfway and work hard, you will see positive results in their performance and improvements in their learning, which will give you lasting satisfaction in your teaching. Being a teacher is one of the greatest callings in the world because you have the opportunity to teach and mentor generations that will one day contribute to a working society. Not only do we share our love for knowledge and personal insights, but we also help develop critical thinking and interest in our students as they grow and develop. In assessing our students, remember it is important to actually improve and not just audit them, to have organization in our assessments, and to pay attention to the benefits of assessment, whatever they may be. Assessment is key in improving ourselves and our students, and if done correctly, we could create lasting habits in our students' learning. What could be better?
I wanna run through the halls of my high school. I wanna scream at the top of my lungs. I just found out there's no such thing as the real world. Just a lie you got to rise above. I just can't wait for my 10 years.